as far as the Josh Simmons situation goes, I'm not going to comment on it today. Veach is handling everything there, and we'll leave it at that.
Understanding you're going to hold back on details, Josh isn't practicing today.
Yeah, I'm just going to let it go here. Yeah, let it go here.
Just to complete that, no timeline. I know you're not going to comment, but there's no timeline whatsoever. Okay.
Patrick, I understand Sunday before kickoff was a bit unusual with Josh, but since then, have you been able to communicate with him? And is there any message you have for him at this point, given just the unusual nature of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep conversations kind of between us, but I mean, it's I'm always praying for all my teammates, so I'm always praying for them, and I'll just keep everything else kind of private to us.
Football. The Chiefs have turned things around after their slow start to the season, especially on offense. In their first 3 games, they averaged just 20 points. Since then, they're scoring over 30 points per game. And now Patrick Mahomes will be getting more help with Rashee Rice returning from his suspension. Since 2023, Mahomes has a better QBR, higher completion percentage, and more yards per attempt targeting Rice than all other receivers. Are the Chiefs the team to beat in the National Football League? RC, Dan, quiet down because the queen has arrived. The one and only Mina Kimes is in the house. What's going on, Mina? You can answer that question. Are the Chiefs the team to beat in the NFL? What's going on?
Yeah, they are, Stephen A. They're the best team yet again, same as it ever was. And you hit it. It really starts with the offense. This is statistically a top 5 offense in the NFL now, despite the fact that they had a slow start to the season. But once again, they are on top. The quarterback is playing the best of any quarterback in football, once again. And they're doing all of this despite the fact that they don't even have their number 1 wide receiver yet. Rashee Rice returns this week. And for those who forgot, in the second half of his rookie season, he led all receivers league-wide in yards after the catch. So you're taking an offense that is already a top 5 unit, and then you're adding a number 1 receiver on top of that. I do have some small concerns about the pass rush, or not small, but legitimate concerns. But I have been encouraged as of late by the play of this young secondary, which, surprise, surprise, Steve Spagnuolo has done it again in coaching those guys up. This is, once again, the number 1 team. They are not perfect, but no perfect team exists in the NFL right now. It's a very flawed league, and I think their offense, to me, puts them on top.
Go ahead, Dan.
I'm not putting the Chiefs.
Hold on. Did I hear a pregnant pause? Do I need to go to RC? Were you not ready for my question?
I was actually looking at RC.
Okay, all right. Well, hurry up. I mean, let's get it together now. Let's get it together.
No, I'm looking at his body language, so we're not talking over.
Right.
I'm not putting the Chiefs over Detroit. I'm not putting the Chiefs over Seattle.
What?
I'm not putting the Chiefs over Tampa Bay. When Tampa Bay's they just beat Detroit. Detroit had a terrible officiating call on their first drive that took a touchdown away from Jared Goff and had 4 of their starters on defense out. Okay, I'm not putting them when Detroit is healthy. They're the best team in football. Seattle, I'm telling everybody, Seattle is as good as anybody in ball. And then Tampa Bay's 5-1 with me playing wide receiver at some points. Tampa Bay is going to be the rare team that gets healthier as this season goes along. And so while Kansas City's playing fantastic, they're no question one of the best. But I'm not just going to sit here and say they're the team to beat and everyone's going to go, well, they have Patrick.
Who's the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks?
Sam Darnold. It's the most explosive pass game in the NFL right now.
Weren't they pretty good last year when he was in Minnesota and they were 14-2 and they were throwing water on his head
like you celebrated?
And then you sat on national television acting like they had won something.
Yeah.
And I said, yo, they haven't won anything yet. And then they nosedived the last game of the regular season with a division title on the line.
Yeah.
And then after that got trounced in the playoffs. That same Sam Darnold?
That same Sam Darnold.
RC, go ahead, man. Go ahead, RC. Go ahead. I just thought I'd point that out. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with Mina. And I've sort of been on this the entire season. When they were 0-2, I was still saying, hey, man, they don't have Xavier Worthy, and you have to wait until Rashee Rice returns. And then we started to see Tyquan Thornton evolve. And then now Hollywood Brown has become a huge part of this offense as Xavier Worthy returned. We saw Travis Kelce not necessarily be old Travis Kelce, to be a Travis Kelce who in one-on-one matchups can go out there and win. And we have gotten desensitized to watching Patrick Mahomes play. We have a level of expectation of him that if the numbers don't feel a certain way or look a certain way, we don't recognize how well he is playing. He has put this team on his back like a Toomey backpack since the first week of this season. And he said, I'm going to do every single thing I need to do to make us competitive. Every single thing I need to do to help us win. And Steve Spagnuolo, who at the beginning of the season, there was communication issues. There was issues when they blitzed and being able to match up on the back end. Now starting to use some of those young pieces that has helped Trent McDuffie move around and be utilized wherever you want him each and every week. And you watch the game, and you see guys like Bolton and Tranquil and Chanel just absolutely ball week to week. This is the team to beat, and this is why. Because you don't get to say, Dan, that, they have Patrick Mahomes and just poo-poo it. Because it's Patrick Mahomes. And at some point, people are going to stand across from him and remember, this is a team that's been to 7 straight AFC championships.
All right, Mina, I'm going to let you respond to that first before I know Dan wants to get in here, but he might get in the way of you talking, Mina, and I can't allow that to happen. Go ahead.
I'm thrilled, first of all, because I thought we would all come up here and agree about the Chiefs. So I'm glad Dan actually gave us a hoop to dunk on with this. I'm going to address specifically what you said about Detroit and the injuries explaining that victory. Dan, I know you watched that game very closely, and I know you know that the starters who were missing were not the primary reason why the Chiefs moved the ball on Detroit so easily. They targeted the linebackers relentlessly in that game. Relentlessly. Ryan, you remember this as well. Those are the starters for Detroit. If these two teams were to play again, they would roll back with the exact same game plan. And watching the game, Chiefs didn't win because of calls. Come on. The Chiefs won because the offense simply out-executed them drive after drive after drive. This offense is relentless. And yes, they are getting their best receiver back. It's crazy to me that you're writing off that win and suggesting that Detroit is a better football team based on what we saw that night.
No, and what I don't want is for people and Chiefs fans to sit here and go, Dan Orlovsky saying the Chiefs are bad. They're awesome. I completely agree. I feel like Patrick's played at an MVP level. But Mina, while you could sit there and say they attacked the linebackers, 3 touchdowns are scored on 3rd down in the red zone, beating man coverage concepts. So we can't sit here and rave about the impact that DJ Reed has had on the defense and how good that Terrion Arnold has been at times with his coverage, and then pretend like
who's doing that?
But he's been physical. Like that has mattered. That has mattered for their defense. That reroutes as good as anybody. We can't sit here and say that. We'll also pretend that 3 third down touchdowns in the red zone against man coverage aren't impactful. I'm not saying that Detroit is this 20-point favorite over Kansas City, but to sit here and say that Detroit isn't just as good as Kansas City is not accurate. To sit here and say that Seattle, and you could talk about Sam Darnold all you want, it's the number 1 explosive pass game in the NFL. He's as good as any quarterback wide receiver duo going in the NFL. It's one of the best defenses in the NFL. It's one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Dallas can't stop a nosebleed. DeMarcus Lawrence looks like he's 22 years old playing on that defense right now. And they got a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in Leonard Williams. And you know that, Mina. And Tampa Bay is 5-1 with the most offensive line combinations going in the NFL and more targets than people at wide receiver than anybody in the NFL. Usually that spells losses. It has spelled wins. Tampa Bay is just as good as anybody as well.
What I was saying
I think that's the point, though, Dan.
Go ahead,
We're not saying that. Like, that's football, right?
are.
Like, the Chiefs have been so good and so far ahead of everybody that we've gotten to this point that we say, okay, the Chiefs are here, and now everybody's shooting for them. But the truth is, it's always that close. Right? There's always that team. Like the Bills have been that team. The Baltimore Ravens have been that team. Philadelphia has been that team. This league is about parity. It's why we have the salary cap. There are going to be 8 teams that sit at the top, and you say to yourself, this one is good. Yes, Seattle is good. Tampa Bay is damn good. If you had to rank them, if we were in college, you'd put them at number 1. I get all of that stuff. But in the end, when we're watching these teams play football, the way you do, the way Mina does, the way I do, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs.
He's going to get Rashee Rice back this week. What are we looking at?
Yeah, yards after the catch. No receiver led the NFL or had more catches in the NFL through the first 3 weeks than Rashee Rice did last year. It gives him the yards after catch guy. That's the one missing piece that we've seen on this offense over the past couple weeks. Right now, this offense in Kansas City is trending towards the best offense we've seen from them in 2 seasons, the most complete offense we've seen from them in 2 seasons. I think this offense is about to absolutely take off and score 30 to 35 a game.
My receiver, Hawk, what exactly is Rashee Rice going to add here?
Oh, he's going to add everything. Rice makes every meal better in every culture. You got to understand that. Number one, listen, when you look at what the Chiefs have been able to do offensively over the last couple of weeks since Xavier Worthy has come back, Thornton has come on, which gives them legitimate deep shots down the field. Look how Hollywood Brown and Juju are playing in the slot. This makes this receiving core probably the most dynamic in the NFL because they have weapons on every piece of the field. And if you give that to Patrick Mahomes, I hate to tell you, it seems like it's going to be the same old story.
So that's the thing. The more things change, the more they stay the same. We spent 6 weeks of the season figuring out who's the real team. Oh, it's obviously Buffalo. Baltimore is the most talented. The Steelers are doing their thing. The Chargers were going to run away with it. At the end of the day, the path to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City again.
Death taxes in Kansas City is exactly what it is. Patrick Mahomes, even before when he didn't have the weapons after he lost Xavier Worthy in week 1, was still playing at an MVP caliber level. He was still, I think, on extended plays, he had 536 yards. That's pass plays over 4 seconds for all of you guys watching. And no, he's got more than anybody else in the entire league. The guy is absolutely incredible, and now he has all his weapons. It's terrifying.
It's painful. But the Chiefs they're playing some good football.
What's painful?
I've been.
Will's a notorious hater of the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm a notorious hater of the Chiefs.
Why?
You can find it on the X timeline. There's,
Chaos.
Raiders. I also feel like I got to troll the fan base a little bit. I got some nice reactions out of them, so it's just kind of been fun for myself to do so.
But in this moment, are they the best
in this
team?
moment, they are playing very good football. I want to say out of their 7 trips to the red zone last week against the Lions, they scored 6 out of those 7 times. They look really good. Defense is coming along. They complement each other well. And Patrick Mahomes, he's as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, this offense, like I said, the last 2 years, this offense has been a little bit of getting dragged to the end of games by Patrick Mahomes. Now this is the most complete group that they've had. It's the most kind of different ways they can get to good football. I'm not ready to sit here and say that the conference runs through Kansas City.
No.
I think Denver defensively is far too good to pretend and sit there and go that they don't matter. If the Chargers can get healthy up front on their offensive line, they matter. Indianapolis offensively is very good. Buffalo has to get healthy. So I'm not ready to sit here and say, no questions asked, Kansas City's going to repeat. I think there's still a group of 4 or 5 teams that can beat them.
I get it. But the point is, I think there was a narrative that they had taken a step back.
Right.
And I think they have reclaimed that step, right? There's no question. You're going to have to beat the champ
The punch
in
in
order
the
to
mouth
get
quote
there.
from Gronk.
Yeah, but the narrative was accurate. They weren't a good offense last year. This year they are.
Okay. The Chiefs.
The Chargers have a head-to-head win, but are either of you crazy enough to say the Chargers are more likely to win?
I'm going with the game manager. That's who I'm going with.
Managing the game.
You know what, though? He's back to being Patrick Mahomes now. The manager game stuff, the not throw the ball down the field stuff, all out the window. Because you know what it's going to be now? It's going to be Mahomes getting cranked up, throwing the ball down the field like the good old days. He has speed again. He's got Hollywood Brown. He's got Worthy. He's got Rice. And he has guys who can protect him up front. And he trusts those guys now. Patrick Mahomes is back to being Patrick Mahomes, and he's no longer the game manager you said he was.
Not this year. He's been decisive with the football, knowing exactly where to go. Now, this will be interesting, if the Chargers had their 2 bookend tackles. This would be a better conversation because they had those guys week 1, and to your point, they were able to come away with the victory. Now, Patrick Mahomes didn't have his 2 top receivers outside, so it would have been interesting to see both of these teams at full strength. But I'm with Pete. The way that money-making Patrick Mahomes has played the last couple of weeks, he's got to be top 3 in everybody's MVP category. He's really elevated what they do. And Pete, he's our leading rusher right now, which is not a great thing, but he's been able to do everything for the Chiefs to elevate that team.
I will say they do need to be better on defense and rush the passer. I mean, Karlaftis at times has disappeared. Chris Jones hasn't been great rushing the passer. They need more help up front.
I want to ask you guys who would be your Super Bowl matchup right now, but I'm afraid we're going to get into like a massive fight.
No.
It's so hard. You never know, like, who you still pick the Bills and Packers.
Bills and Packers. I'm going to stick with it.
Packers.
I went Ravens and
But maybe we'll be on the other side.
You got Ravens and Commanders? You don't like either one of those, do you?
I'm going to stick with them.
You stick with the Ravens?
The Ravens are coming back, and they're going to make a second-half run. Watch it.
If that hamstring isn't right, they aren't.
I mean, he hit 50%. Lamar Jackson is better with what they put out there with Cooper Kupp.
Well, Cooper Rush? Yeah.
Cooper Rush, yeah.
If Cooper Kupp probably could have played better quarterback.
He probably could have played better at quarterback this past week.
He could have thrown it better.
The Kansas City Chiefs are about to make moves that could completely flip their entire season, and most fans have absolutely no idea what's brewing behind closed doors right now. We're talking about potential trades that aren't just roster adjustments. These are seismic shifts that could determine whether Kansas City goes back to the Super Bowl or crashes out in the divisional round. The trade deadline is approaching fast, and the rumors flying around Arrowhead are absolutely wild, with names being thrown around that would make any Chiefs fan's jaw drop. From game-changing running backs to pass rushers who could terrorize quarterbacks, the front office is reportedly exploring every option to fix what's broken. And trust me, there's plenty that needs fixing. What I'm about to break down isn't just speculation or wishful thinking. This is based on actual reports, insider information, and the cold hard reality of what Kansas City desperately needs right now if they want to keep this dynasty alive. The absolute hottest name on the trade market right now that could transform the Chiefs offense overnight is New York Jets running back Breece Hall, and the craziest part is that he might only cost a 5th round pick. Yeah, you heard that right, a potential game changer for basically nothing. Connor Hughes from SNY talked to some NFL general managers about what the asking price would be, and right now that trade value for Breece Hall is sitting at a 5th round pick, maybe a 4th if some other teams get involved and start bidding against each other. But here's the thing, the GMs he talked to said there's actually risk going that high, that even a 5th or 4th round pick is still a little too expensive because of his durability concerns, the inconsistent tough yards he gets, and the fact that he's in the final year of his deal, so you're basically renting him for half a season unless you want to pony up big money to re-sign him, which might be tough if he has a monster second half. But let's look at what he brings to the table, because the numbers are actually pretty solid despite playing in an absolute dumpster fire of an offense. So far this season, Hall has 88 carries for 4 of 10 rushing yards, averaging 4.9 yards per carry. Now remember, as a unit, the Chiefs are only doing 3.9 yards per carry right now, so that's already a massive upgrade. He's also got 17 catches for 150 receiving yards, and if you've been watching Jets games and their offense is legitimately horrid, boy, it does not help Hall at all, yet he's still producing decent output. The game script in New York is a mess. They're winless or close to it depending on when this info came from. Aaron Glenn looks like he might be a one and done coach, and there were already some statements from people around the organization suggesting the relationship between Hall and the Jets seems rocky at best. For Kansas City, this makes all the sense in the world, because if you look at the Chiefs' run game right, now they're averaging 118.7 yards per game, which is mid-tier, middle of the league territory. But here's the embarrassing part that should make Brett Veach pick up the phone immediately. Patrick Mahomes is leading the team in rushing yards. Your quarterback is leading your rushing game, and honestly, he's been carrying this offense on his back the first handful of weeks. Yes, people are starting to step up now with guys like Xavier Worthy making plays, but when it really comes down to it, who has been the engine? It's been Mahomes, and that's not sustainable if you want to win in January. Hall's tackle-breaking style and explosiveness would elevate this offense to a completely different level. It's going to get you something you're absolutely not getting with Kareem Hunt right now. Isaiah Pacheco has looked okay, maybe slightly better in the last couple of weeks, but that's only because they're running a lot more under center, because that's all those guys can really do. They don't have the speed and explosiveness to run outside zone effectively anymore, which used to be a staple of Andy Reid's offense. Eventually, teams are going to catch on and start defending that under center stuff better, because they'll know that's literally all you can do. You need an explosive running back to open up the RPO game and get that outside zone run working again, and Breece Hall gives you exactly that. Now, he doesn't have the greatest vision in the world, I'll be honest about that, but man, he just has that home run ability that the Chiefs have been missing for the past couple of years. Not to mention, having a legit home run threat in the backfield causes defenses to get out of too high safety looks and actually opens up the Chiefs' passing game to a whole new level. It'll allow more explosive plays downfield to guys like Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton, because safeties can't just sit back there all day. I personally love the 5th round value here, and I think if you can get him at that price point, you absolutely have to do it. He's younger than most of the other options out there. He's a better long-term fit than someone like Tony Pollard, who's already 28 years old. And if it brings a Super Bowl, who cares if you only rent him for half a season? That's what this is all about. Connecting Hall's potential arrival to the bigger picture, we need to establish what the real needs are for Kansas City right now, because there are two glaring weaknesses that have been hurting this team all season long. The lack of a running game is making the Chiefs way too easy to defend, turning them into a one-dimensional offense defense that's causing execution errors and miscues all over the place. In that Jaguars game, for example, maybe that turnover in the red zone doesn't happen if you have a running back you actually trust in that situation. But the other massive problem is the complete lack of a pass rush that's been exposed in multiple games already this season. Against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Chiefs just could not get to Jalen Hurts throughout that entire game. Yes, the Eagles offense didn't score a ton of points, but you'd think getting to the quarterback a little bit more would have helped secure that win more comfortably. Against the Chargers in week 1, the pass rush was basically non-existent. You could argue the same thing happened against the Detroit Lions, where the pass rush didn't show up. And yes, the Chiefs came out with a win, but there are things you're going to have to worry about later down the line when games start getting more important in January. You need a pass rush to win playoff football, and right now the Chiefs simply don't have one. The running back room as it currently stands just isn't cutting it, plain and simple. We've seen Pacheco for 2 years now, and he's just not that good. We've seen Kareem Hunt for 2 years, and while I like what he provides in short yardage and goal line situations, he's basically just a 4th and 1 goal line carry type of guy, and that's it. Neither of these guys are really helping you take advantage of what could be a legitimate chance to take over the AFC this year. This is a year where the conference looks really weak overall, where the Chiefs have a real shot at getting back to the Super Bowl and having a legitimate chance against whoever comes out of the NFC. So why wait? Why not go out and get a running back now, especially if it's not going to cost much in terms of draft capital or cap space? The answer seems so obvious that it's frustrating they haven't already pulled the trigger. Shifting gears to the defensive side of the ball, where the need is just as urgent, Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins is a name that keeps popping up, and honestly, he makes a ton of sense for what Kansas City needs. The Dolphins are going absolutely nowhere this season. They're a mess, and Phillips is still on his rookie contract, which means he won't break the bank. He's dealt with some injuries, which is actually why his price tag is going to be low. But when you look at the production, and more importantly, the metrics that matter, this guy could be exactly what the Chiefs defense is missing. Let's dive into some numbers that really tell the story here. This is from Finn's Extra on X, and they broke down Jalen Phillips' stats this season among all edge rushers on passing downs with a minimum of 50% of snaps played. He's been on the field for 155 pass plays, generated 20 pressures, has 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and 17 hurries. Now the stat that really jumps out and should have Brett Veach's phone ringing is his 19% pass rush win rate, which ranks 14th in the entire NFL. That pass rush win rate would be the highest on the Kansas City Chiefs right now. And let me explain why that specific stat matters so much more than just looking at raw sack numbers. George Karlaftis is actually in the top 10 in the NFL this year in total pressures, but here's the thing. I've been pointing out time and time again, not all pressures are created equal. A lot of Karlaftis' pressures aren't actually created by him winning his individual matchup. What happens is Chris Jones collapses the pocket from the inside, pushes the quarterback toward Karlaftis' side, and then George gets credited with a pressure even though he didn't really do anything on the play except benefit from eating off Chris Jones's plate. The pure pressure rate, or the total amount of pressures a defensive end has, doesn't truly reflect their ability to create those pressures on their own. Pass rush win rate is more of a time to pressure statistic that indicates this guy is winning quickly. He's getting off his block fast, and he's creating that pressure in a short amount of time. That's what Jalen Phillips does really well, and that's exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs are desperately missing. You need a Phillips type guy opposite of George Karlaftis, who's going to win quickly off the edge and push the quarterback towards George so he can do his defensive end number 2 things and get his cleanup sacks. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but Karlaftis isn't creating sacks or pressure by himself. He needs someone else to do the dirty work for him first, and then his effort and motor will take over and make him look good. The Chiefs just aren't great at getting quick pressures on the quarterback right now, and it's showing up in crucial moments. Mike Dana is just kind of out there existing. Ashton Gelati is a rookie, so you can't bank on consistent production from him yet. And Charles Omenihu honestly looks washed at this point in his career. The edge position desperately needs an injection of talent, and Phillips would provide that immediately with his 80.1 pass rush grade from PFF. I genuinely think Jalen Phillips would be a massive boost to this Chiefs pass rush, and the fact that he won't cost a ton because of the injury concerns makes it even more of a no-brainer in my opinion. Now, if the Chiefs want to address the interior defensive line, which is arguably an even bigger disaster than the edge, there's a veteran option that makes a ton of sense from both a production and cost standpoint. Calais Campbell from the Arizona Cardinals is 38 years old, but somehow still playing at a really high level, and he signed a very very cheap one-year deal with Arizona, so you're basically just renting him for the rest of the season. The Cardinals are going nowhere this year. They started 2-0 and then dropped 4 straight games, including giving Tennessee their only win of the season, so they should absolutely be sellers at the deadline. When you look at the Chiefs' interior run defense, the numbers are legitimately embarrassing. They have a 28.8 PFF grade, which whether you like PFF or not, there's some truth to those grades. And that 28.8 mark is the absolute worst in the entire NFL. You can't win championships with interior defensive line play that bad. It's just not possible. Campbell would be a massive upgrade over what they currently have, especially considering Derek Nunati is out there playing significant snaps despite being completely washed. If you watched that Lions game, Detroit was literally running straight at Nunati and getting a free 5 to 10 yards every single time. The dude is ranked dead last among all NFL players in PFF grade, not just at his position, but literally the entire league, and yet the coaching staff and front office seem bizarrely in love with him. But back to Campbell because his resume speaks for itself. 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, and if you want to look at just this season, that's fine too. He's got 11 pressures, 9 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks, which is 6th among defensive tackles in the entire league. At 39 years old, that's pretty incredible production, and beyond the stats, he's going to bring something else that's really valuable. Mentorship for young guys like Ashton Gelati and Omar Norman Lott. Get them under his wing, teach them how to get off blocks, how to shed those blocks, because one thing Campbell does really well, even at his age, is use his hands and leverage to win those battles in the trenches. What's this gonna cost? Probably just a day 3 pick, maybe a 6th or 7th rounder, and that's likely a much better option in both the short and long run than someone like Jeffrey Simmons from Tennessee, who would cost way more in draft capital. You already had to use a trade pick this season on the defensive line when you brought back Derek Nottie for some inexplicable reason, and that's obviously not paying off at all. So going after Simmons would mean giving up even more assets. Campbell is the smarter, more affordable play here. How does he fit within the Chiefs' defense? I think it's a perfect match, honestly, especially with that veteran experience. He can diagnose offensive schemes before they even develop. He's able to hold double teams, which is going to free up the edge rushers to go one-on-one. He's got quick hands and finds good leverage spots consistently, and he's going to disrupt pockets, which is huge when Steve Spagnuolo wants to dial up blitzes. Having a guy who can command that kind of attention inside opens up so many possibilities for the defense. In my opinion, Campbell is affordable, he's going to stabilize the defensive line immediately, and he's probably a much smarter pick in terms of what you have to give up right now versus chasing bigger names that would cost premium draft capital. There's another running back option that's been getting buzz, but honestly, I think the price tag makes him less appealing than Breece Hall. Tony Pollard from the Tennessee Titans is definitely available because the Titans are sitting at 1-5. Their only win came against the Cardinals, who we just talked about, and their offense is an absolute mess. They have the second fewest points in the league and the absolute fewest yards in the entire NFL. Despite all that dysfunction, Pollard is actually on pace for over 1,000 yards this season, which shows he's still got it even in a terrible situation. He was a 2022 Pro Bowler. He's put up 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and in 2 seasons with the Titans, he's accumulated 1,441 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry. He's got soft hands for checkdowns and screen passes, which Andy Reid loves. And let's be honest, he's got way more juice and better potential right now than what we're seeing from Kareem Hunt. Pollard would fit Andy Reid's scheme perfectly. He plays well between the tackles, and he'd get those chunk plays off passes in the flat. But here's where the whole thing falls apart and why I'm not as high on this as I am on Breece Hall. Pollard has the 7th highest running back cap hit in the entire league right now, and Kansas City only has $2.9 million in cap space to work with. That's really, really tight, and even if they could somehow make the money work, is a 28-year-old running back really a good long-term fit? A mid-round pick might be possible to get him, but I'm just not sold on giving up assets for a running back at that age, when the position has such a short shelf life. If it's between Pollard at 28 and Hall at 24, I'm taking the younger guy with more upside every single time, especially when Hall is also cheaper to acquire. While we're on the topic of running backs, there are a few other lower-cost low-cost options that have been floated around, even though they're less likely to happen. Alvin Kamara from the New Orleans Saints is still an intriguing name, even though he came out and said he doesn't want to leave. But if you're the Saints, you really have to think about dealing him with the salary cap situation you're in, and the fact that he's not going to be useful to your team probably for the next couple of years. They're in full rebuild mode whether they want to admit it or not, so I'd definitely still make that call if I'm Brett Veach, just to see what the price would be. Jalen Wright from the Miami Dolphins is another name that's kind of fallen out of favor there, but was a really hot draft prospect just a couple of years ago. He definitely has some speed and explosiveness that could fit what the Chiefs need, and I'd call about him because I think he would be cheap to acquire, maybe just a late round pick. Jerome Ford from the Cleveland Browns is another one I've heard a couple of times, and I could definitely see that happening because the Chiefs don't have a ton of cap space to play with, and they don't really love giving up draft capital in the middle of the season. Brett Veach traditionally doesn't like to do it, but you've got major weaknesses here that need to be addressed. On the defensive line, there's another edge rusher option beyond Jalen Phillips that some people have mentioned. Arden Key from the Tennessee Titans is a versatile defensive lineman who can play both inside and outside, which would kind of help you kill two birds with one stone when we're talking about both the defensive tackle weakness and the edge rusher need. The Chiefs actually brought him in for a visit a couple of years ago, so there was legitimate interest in Arden Key at one point, and he's definitely a fit for this defense scheme-wise. But there's a huge emotional problem with this potential acquisition that might make it a non-starter for some fans. Arden Key is the guy who put the tackle on Patrick Mahomes that ended up hurting his ankle during that 2022 playoff run. I totally understand if that makes people not want him on the team. It's a valid emotional reaction. But if we're taking feelings out of it and just looking at football, he does make a ton of sense because of that versatility. He could help shore up multiple problem areas with one acquisition. Speaking of problem areas, let's talk specifically about some of the roster spots that are absolute disasters right now. Derek Nnadi is beyond horrible. Like I mentioned earlier, he's classified dead last in the NFL by PFF among all players. The Detroit Lions were literally running straight at him every single play and getting 5 to 10 free yards like it was a practice drill. Nnadi is not good, period. End of story. But for some inexplicable reason, the coaching staff and front office seem to be in love with this guy. They actually traded a draft pick to get him back from the Jets in a pseudo-cut situation, and that alone kind of cements the fact that he's probably still going to be on this team no matter how bad he plays. George Karlaftis is another issue that needs to be addressed, honestly. I've been saying for years that he's a defensive end number 2 at best, not a true number 1 guy. Well, right now, he's the defensive end number 1 for the Chiefs, and you're seeing the results of that in real time. His pressures aren't being created by his own wins. They're coming from Chris Jones collapsing the pocket and pushing quarterbacks into his area. When George gets credited with a pressure or sack, a lot of times it's because he's eating off Chris Jones's plate, not because he beat his man. That's not what you want from your supposed top edge rusher. Mike Dana is just out there existing, taking up space and snaps without providing much of anything. Ashton Gelati is a rookie, so hopefully he comes along and develops, but you shouldn't be banking on a rookie for your production at such a crucial position when you're trying to win a Super Bowl. Charles Omeni, who honestly looks completely washed at this point, like he's got nothing left in the tank. The Chiefs need juice at the defensive end position desperately, and that's why someone like Jalen Phillips makes so much sense. All of this brings us to the ultimate question that I want to hear from you guys in the comments. If the Chiefs can only make one move at the trade deadline, which one should it be, running back or pass rush? I think the Chiefs could potentially do both if they're really serious about fixing these glaring issues. If you're all in on winning another Super Bowl, I would try to get both Jalen Phillips and Breece Hall in here, and then I think you're absolutely running to a championship. But if it only has to be one move, which position is more important? I'm kind of torn on this, honestly, because part of me wants to just accept the defense for what it is, which is not bad, but also not elite, and bet everything on the offense. Once you get Rashee Rice back from suspension and you add a dynamic running back like Breece Hall, this offense could get back to scoring 30+ points per game again. At that point, you just need the defense to get a couple stops per game and you're golden. With Hall opening up the run game, defenses can't sit in too high safety looks anymore, and suddenly Xavier Worthy and the other receivers have room to operate deep. That offense would be absolutely nasty, and I don't know who would be able to stop them. On the other hand, pass rush is one of those things that becomes critically important in January games. You absolutely need to be able to get pressure on the opposing quarterback in the playoffs. That's just playoff football 101. If this Chiefs team isn't capable of generating that consistent pressure, I don't care how good the offense is, you're going to run into trouble eventually against elite quarterbacks. So do you shore up the pass rush with Phillips and maybe another piece, banking on the fact that the offense will be good enough with what you already have? Honestly, thinking about it more, I might lean toward getting both if possible, but if I absolutely had to choose one, I think I'm going running back. Get the offense humming at an elite level again, and trust that Spagnuolo can scheme up enough pressure with what he has. One more thing that needs to be addressed, even though it's not really a trade deadline issue, Harrison Butker is going through an absolute crisis right now. The dude is legitimately one of the worst kickers in the NFL so far in 2025, which is insane to say about a guy who's been so reliable for so long. He's missing PATs, missing field goals, and he even had that out-of-bounds kickoff that helped the Jaguars stage their game-winning drive. It's becoming a legitimate problem, and it's clearly all mental because we know he has the leg talent. The issue is you can't just cut him, because if you release Butker, you're looking at $15.1 million in dead cap space. So you're basically stuck with him